Hello and welcome back to my channel. On this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I hope to read in July of 2025, and there's some really great ones on this list. I'm going to start with my pre-picked books for the month, and then I will choose 5 random books using a random alphabet letter from my backlist on my Kindle to add to my list as well. First, I'm going to start with books I haven't gotten to in previous months, and thankfully there are just a couple of them because I was able to catch up on a bunch in this past month. So the books I haven't gotten to yet is Onyx Storm. This is the 3rd book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. This is the series that starts with Fourth Wing. There was Fourth Wing and then Iron Flame and now Onyx Storm. And this is a commitment, I think. I've heard from a lot of people that there's a lot of new characters and you have to pay a lot of attention to this one to understand what's going on. So I wanted to make sure I gave this one plenty of time. So I ran out of time in June, but I'm hoping to get to it this next month. And then the other book I haven't gotten to yet is called Multipliers, How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter by Liz Weissman. This is also a lengthier nonfiction book that I just acquired the audiobook for, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into that one as well. And then the other book that I've been continually reading throughout the year is Daily Creative by Todd Henry. This is a series of essays, one for each day of the year, and I've been diligently reading essays throughout each month to stay caught up with that book as well. All right, on to the new books for this next month. The first book I have on my list is called Distancing: How Great Leaders Reframe to Make Better Decisions. This is by L. David Marquette. This is a NetGalley book, so it is not out yet. I believe it comes out in August. And so I'm finally caught up in reading all the books I had on that backlist from NetGalley, and now I'm actually reading books that aren't out yet. So this is basically an argument that the author is making about how distance can bring perspective when you're a leader, and he's giving a lot of different examples about that. So I thought it would be kind of an interesting one to pick up. The next set of books I put on my list is actually a series. It is called the Gallagher Girls series by Allie Carter. And basically this is a series, I believe, about teenage spies in a high school setting. If I'm remembering that correctly, let me look and make sure I'm getting this right. There is a Gallagher Academy for exceptional young women, and they teach martial arts and they teach chemical warfare, and they get extra credit for breaking CIA codes. They claim to be a school for geniuses, but it is a school for spies. And this is a series that I saw somebody mention, and they were very nostalgic about it because they'd read it as a teenager. I had never heard of this author. I had never read this series before. And so I was like, I want to pick this up. So this is one of the things I added to my 25 books for 2025 list. I actually have the physical box set of this particular set of books, so I'm excited to dive into that. The next book that I added to my list is a book called This Working Life: How to Navigate Your Career in Uncertain Times by Lisa Leong. This is a book that I was drawn to because I'm really interested in kind of career growth, evolution, and change in times of uncertainty. And I read a couple books recently on AI and how all of those things impact career. And especially now in higher ed, things are getting a little bit shaken up. And so I thought this might be a good book to pick up this particular month. Next on my list is the latest Catherine Center novel called The Love Haters. I believe this takes place in Florida, and it involves a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. And I think that there's also a woman who maybe she's a video producer. And Catherine Center novels are lovely, and they're such good romances. They're so solid. I've heard great things about this one. It seems like the perfect summer read. So I'm going to pick that one up too. The next book that I have on my list is called The Poppy Fields by Nikki Ehrlich, who is best known for her book The Measure, which I really enjoyed. And this next book is also a bit of speculative fiction. It is about a experimental and controversial treatment center that allows people suffering from heartache to sleep through their pain. And after patients awaken from this prolonged state of slumber, they will be healed, but they have to accept the potential shadowy side effects. So this is one that just came out. It sounds really interesting. Excited to pick that one up. I also have on my list the 4th book in the Livia Lone series. This is called All the Devils by Barry Eisler. This is basically about a female cop who is a vendetta killer against sex traffickers. And I've read the first several books in this series, and I'm excited to read book 4. I've heard it's really, really good. So looking forward to picking that one up. Next up, I wanted to read Twisted Love by Anna Huang, and this is a book that has been called a book talk sensation. It is one that I see everywhere, and I have not had a chance to read it. So this is a book that is kind of a romance based on like a brother's best friend kind of situation. But the male main character is described as a devil blessed with the face of an angel. And then he is tasked with looking after his best friend's sister, and he starts to have feelings for her. So this is one that, again, I've heard a lot of good things about. Thought I would pick it up and see what I think. All right, then I have on my list Heidi, Lucy Loses Her Mind. This is the second book in the Happily Ever Homicide series by Gracie Ruth Mitchell. I read the first book in this series, which is called Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder, and it was so charming and lovely, and I wanted to add the second book in the series to my list as well. So looking forward to reading that. I also wanted to read a bunch of like newer fiction. That's a lot of what's on the list this month. So I also have The Thrashers by Julie Soto. This, I believe, is set in a high school and is kind of like a thriller, like a twisty thriller set in a high school. And another one that I've just heard like amazing things about. People seem to be really enjoying that one. I have the latest Emily Henry on my list. It is called Great Big Beautiful Life. This one has been getting a little bit of like mixed reviews from people, but I tend to like Emily Henry novels in general. So this is about two writers who are competing for the chance to tell the larger than life story of a woman with more than a couple of plot twists up her sleeve in this dazzling and sweeping new novel. There is a woman who is an eternal optimist still dreaming of her big writing break. And then there's a Pulitzer Prize winning human thundercloud that is the male main character, and they're kind of in this competition together. So looking forward to picking that one up as well. I also have on my list the latest Ali Hazelwood. It is called Deep End, and I believe this is about a competitive swimmer. There's a junior at Stanford, a student athlete who specializes in platform diving. And then there's a swim captain who is the male main character, and they have a bit of a romance. So looking forward to picking that one up as well. I couldn't help myself from adding 4th of July Creek by Smith Henderson to my list. This is one of the 25 books for 2025 I was hoping to read this year. And in July, what better time to be reading this book? I think this is a book actually about a social worker who becomes kind of embroiled in the story of this young child that they're kind of working with. And this is a book that came out a long time ago, but I've just heard really good things about it. So I'm finally getting around to reading that. I also have on my list Curious Tides. This is the first book in the Drowned God series by Pascal Lascelles. And again, I've heard really good things about this. This is a dark academia fantasy novel that is focused on a teen mage who must unravel the truth behind a secret society that may have been involved in her classmates' deaths. So summer is the perfect time for dark academia. I'll pick that one up as well. And then the last couple books, I have The Things We Water by Mariana Zapata. This is the latest book by this author that people have been absolutely raving about. It is quite long at over 700 pages, so I'm looking forward to diving into that one as well. The main character is a woman named Nina who goes to a sprawling ranch in Colorado that is a community filled with magical creatures trying to live their lives in safety and peace. So it seems like a bit of a genre crossover. I think that Mariana Zapata does a little bit of sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit of like romance, and it sounds like she's kind of doing a mashup here. And then the last predetermined book I have on my list is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is, I believe, a historical kind of revisioning of the shooting of Kennedy in 1963. And it is basically, I believe, a man who was back in time to try to stop this from happening. This is a book that people continually rave about. I think it's considered one of Stephen King's best. And he is such a master of kind of like flexing across genres. So that's one that I've been wanting to pick up for a really long time. All right, so now let me go ahead and pick my 5 random books from my Kindle. And first I'm going to choose my random alphabet letter. All right, the letter I have chosen is W. So let me go ahead and navigate to the W books in my Kindle library and see what I have as an option here. I'm actually kind of curious how many W's I have. All right, so first I'm just gonna kind of scan through and see what I have here as an option. All right, the first book I'm gonna pick is one called Wandering Wild by Lynette Noni. This is a book by an author that I've really enjoyed, and she is known for, let me see if I can remember, the Prison Healer books, which I really, really liked. This is a book about a couple of teens who go on this reality TV adventure where they're involved with like a survivalist, which I thought just sounded kind of interesting. So I believe this is like a YA romance, and looking forward to adding that to my list for July. The next book I'm going to pick up is one called What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriarty. This is an Australian author that I've read before and really enjoy her work. Not read this book yet. It is about a woman who is 29, and she comes to after like passing out on the floor of a gym. And when she wakes up in the hospital, she finds out that she's now 39, she's getting divorced, and she has 3 kids, and she's trying to unravel what happened in the past 10 years that have led to this moment. I have really enjoyed this author, and so I am going to add that one to my list as well. The next book I'm going to add to my list is one by Robin Carr called What We Find. This is the first book in the Sullivan's Crossing book series, which I'm pretty sure is now like a Netflix series. I'm guessing this is small town romance, but let's take a look. It says, Maggie Sullivan knows she needs to slow down, and the best place to do that is Sullivan's Crossing, the campground and charming general store at the crossroads of the Colorado and the Continental Divide trails belong to her eccentric father, and she longs to indulge in his simple way of life. When she must take responsibility for the crossing, there is a quiet and serious hiker who offers to lend a hand. And then, of course, they are both struggling with loss, loneliness, and eventually develop a romance. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one to my list as well. It'll be fun to watch that adaptation once I've read the first book. The next book I'm going to add to my list is one called Win. This is the first book in the Winsome Horn Lockwood III book series by Harlan Coben. Harlan Coben can do no wrong, in my opinion. I feel like he writes these amazing thrillers. I'm always sucked in. And this one is about an heiress who was abducted during a robbery of her family's estate 20 years ago and locked inside an isolated cabin for months. She escaped, but so did her captors, and the items stolen from her family were never recovered. And now on the Upper West Side, a recluse is found murdered in his penthouse apartment alongside 2 objects of note, the stolen painting and a leather suitcase bearing certain initials. And the authorities have a lead on this FBI cold case, and it is this Windsor Horn Lockwood III, who is the initials on the suitcase, and they're trying to figure out what happened. So I'm going to add that one to my list as well. The last book that I'm adding to my list for July is one called Wormwood Abbey. This is by Christina Bear, and this is a book that is the first in a series called The Secrets of Warndale, and I believe this might be YA fiction, but let's take a look. It says there is a Victorian clergyman's daughter, Edith Worms, who's seen everything until a mythical salamander tumbles out of the fireplace in her lap. When a letter arrives from a strange relative, she's swept away to a crumbling Gothic abbey in the wilds of Yorkshire. Wormwood Abbey isn't just full of curious beasts and ancient family secrets. There's also a tall, dark, and entirely too handsome neighbor who is strangely reluctant for her to leave. So I'm not entirely sure if this is YA or not, but it does sound like a very charming fantasy novel, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up as well in the month of July. So those are the list of books I'm going to try to read in July of 2025. I hope you'll check back at the end of the month and see what I was able to get through. And until then, happy reading.